Well, you can't trust County.
Me too. I'm scared too.
I'm already scared because of my costume.
I just making myself look like this. I
Stop.
don't feel well. I don't
Stop.
feel well.
Stop. I'm tearing. I'm starting to tear.
Okay,
God.
should we just jump straight into a reveal?
I know. I think we must.
Okay.
I feel like I'm about to cry.
You do the countdown.
Okay. 3, 2,
Oh God.
1. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Stew the birds.
I'm crying.
I didn't even take stock. I was like,
I'm crying. I'm actually, oh my God. You are stepping on necks this Halloween. Stepping on necks.
baby.
Look at this.
First of all, could I be bothered to wear gloves? No. Could I be bothered to wear gloves? Not a chance. Not a chance. I don't feel well.
Half of my tears are literally like, I'm actually terrified of you. I'm terrified of these. And also, I'm like so in awe of your makeup skills.
This is a crazy good costume. I'm looking at, holy shit. Oh, wait, sorry. 125.
125.
125.
I literally, I am really just astounded by your makeup skills. That's crazy. Crazy work.
Stu,
Creepers. Creepers already know, but this is wild.
This might have been the easiest makeup I've done because there's only 2 colors. That's it.
But look at the freaking contour and the shading.
That's what made it easy. I was like, oh, it's all just shading. I was like, truly, it's just white and black cream makeup. And I'm like, a little darker here, blend here.
Oh my God. The teeth.
What teeth?
Oh my God. And those contacts.
What contacts?
Baby. Not you cackling with the mouth open. I can't.
Oh.
Baby, those look like my teeth after 6 years gone too
also,
long. Also,
mind you, I couldn't zip up the habit myself. This is held together behind me with a chip clip. It's
not
a chip
the
clip,
habit,
mama.
Not the habit with the chip clip. I am so deceased, but you are actually deceased.
Girl,
My
I
God.
don't feel well. I think I'm taking on a posture I shouldn't. It's not good for me. I really don't let nobody see this. Don't let nobody see this.
I don't feel well either.
Blur me out.
For both of us. I really
You look
could just
amazing.
continue to rave.
Give me a second because I just have to process you as a platinum blonde. I can't, you're editing, so I can't swear. It's a look.
It's a look.
It's a look.
A good look or a weird look?
No, it's a look. A good
It's a look. You know what's so funny?
A good look.
This is a Marilyn Monroe wig. Let me tell you something. I have so much respect for wig stylists. It took me so long to get this to even go get it into a position.
It looks pretty put together.
It's got bump bits in it. It's got more bobby pins. The back of this is a chip clip. It is beyond. It's really bad in the back. But I was like, doing these costumes, does it
these
not,
2 people together,
just having a cup of coffee. Doing these costumes, does it not give you so much? It just makes me realize how much I took for granted the amazing costume and wig stylists and makeup artists that we probably did stuff with back in the day.
Truly, nothing could reaffirm for me more than I thought before, how hard makeup artists work. This takes so long to do this. I gotta stop swearing. I'm so sorry. 4 minutes in.
It's okay. Oh my God, don't worry about it.
I will not do it again. I promise.
This is my boot camp. Oh my God.
The birds. Can you please walk me through? I know there's a lot to get into, and I'm sure there is a jam-packed case, but I gotta talk to you about these birds. What is the process like for you to, 1, willfully purchase the prop birds, and then 2, attach them?
I sewed them on too. I was up late last night sewing them. And I was
my
like,
God.
these damn, and I was like pricking myself and I was like, this is some sort of immersion therapy. Like I can't.
It's like a lot. You're doing it to yourself at this point. You're doing it to yourself.
I
meant to tell you, I like got on Riverside so I could like film a YouTube video last night. I could record the audio and I jumped into our session thinking I'm like, oh, Stu won't be on there. It was open and it was on at like 3 a.m. or something for you.
Wait.
And I was the deep fear that put in me. I was so scared. Like your camera was on, lights were off. And I just thought to myself, I was like, if I turned on Riverside and in the dark, you were just still in the same position I left you.
Wait. Stop. That makes so much sense because this morning when I opened my computer, I was like, oh my God, I left it on last night because I was like doing editing stuff and I just had it open. And I
truly put a pit in my stomach, Stu. I was like,
why are we scaring ourselves so much right now?
I don't know. I truly I keep looking over my shoulder as if there's like somebody here, but really it's just me. If anybody looks through my windows, it's a wrap. I'm evicted. It's a wrap.
This is so much damn fun. I swear to God. Wait, and before we get into the case, because it is a really good case, but
yes,
before we get into it, I watched the movie finally. The Birds.
You did. So I was going to ask, have you ever seen The Birds?
Need this. It was so
pass one over, honey. Pass one over.
Literally, I would toss it. It was so good. And when we were talking about Hitchcock yesterday, I was like, oh my God, I can't blow it that I will be this tomorrow.
You didn't let on at all. I was going to say, I was like, did that conversation that like inspire this was a last minute thing, but no, you've been planning this.
No. I just thought about it. I watched it last Friday and it is incredible. It's such a good movie. I mean, I guess you've seen it.
I grew up for some reason I grew up watching it, but like my mom was really like big on like Hitchcock movies growing up. You can see where I caught the bug. But I remember watching The Birds. It's a scary ass movie. It's
scary. Like I was genuinely terrified. I mean, obviously because I'm super scared of birds, but I was terrified.
But like imagine that in real life though. Like I had always assumed your fear of birds maybe came from like you knowing about the movie. I think I assumed you never put yourself through watching it. You really watched it.
I really watched it, and first of all, she is hot in that movie.
She's beautiful. She's
sexual like allure. And then I realized later, I called my mom and I was like, I think I'm going to do Melanie Daniels from The Birds. And she was like, you know, that's Dakota Johnson's grandmother, right? I was like, how do you know that? And I don't.
God, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
whoa,
Melanie
I never
Griffith's
even connected
mom.
the dots. Wow. Oh my God.
Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, that's blowing my mind right now, thinking about like the lineage of like all of them being actors. Wow.
Wait, but I do need to know how you landed on this. Didn't somebody actually guess that you were going to be this?
I think they did, just because it's a crazy. So technically, I guess this character is called Valak. You are Valak. And Stu, I bought a prosthetic nose because I was like, I need to do like some kind of a nose. And then last minute, I was like, I had the spirit gum, I had the nose, and I had all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, I'm not doing that. I'm
not doing all that. Trust
me. I'm
me.
not doing all that. I just won't go into profile. Well, actually, I'll let you see from profile, but like.
Please let us see from profile. Please. Look at that Quantor. She's snatched. She is snatched.
Silas Dean, Los Angeles based. Represented by WME.
God.
Thank you.
Creepers.
I'm 5'11".
Oh my God.
Hi, creepers.
Hi, creepers. Hi, babies. Oh my God. The come down after the reveal is something out of this world, honestly, every time. But this is, I'm still so in awe of like those makeup skills. I literally can't.
Thank you. That's very, very sweet. But I promise you, like this one, I'm proud of it, but like it took the least amount of time comparatively.
That's so wild.
It's so easy to disguise.
4 hours. Not really, but
no, the beauty makeup, it's harder. Beauty makeup is like low key harder because like there's like precision that's involved. Like this is kind of like messy, you know, which makes it easier.
Yeah.
And the teeth are hanging on by a thread. They're about to go any second.
Please let them pop out halfway through the case. If you do need to pop them out, I fully understand.
Pop them out. Baby, these are my teeth.
Baby.
They're painted.
Those are my teeth.
No, these are my teeth. They're painted.
Oh my God. Oh, so you did like The Exorcist. Oh, me thinking you've got freaking dentures in. Jesus.
You're like, if you need to pop them out, I'm like.
Sometimes I don't know where my brain is. They're so believable.
They look crazy.
Like, they look crazy. Oh,
I keep swallowing little pieces of it. It's not a pleasant experience, so no, I'm suffing, but I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited for you to lead a case for Halloween.
I know. And the case I'm diving into today is actually, it's an unsolved mysterious death. And I realize I haven't really covered many mysterious deaths.
I don't know if you have.
I don't think I have, and not one that's quite like this before, at least. And as I was doing the research, I was thinking how much this case parallels the Phoebe Handshook case, because just like Phoebe, our victim is found in this incredibly bizarre situation with an object involved that is about as odd as a trash chute was for the Phoebe case. So I'm just going to get into it a little bit. Our victim is a young woman named Jessica Renee Johnson, and she was a 37-year-old mom, and she was found outside her on-again, off-again boyfriend's home in June of 2017. And the circumstances were incredibly shocking and unusual, which we'll get to in just a bit. But to this day, everyone is still scratching their heads, trying to make sense of if Jessica took her own life, if someone took it from her, or if police were involved in a cover-up to make it look like something very specific happened. And I know I'm being cryptic, but I want to do so purposefully because I think if you don't know how she was found just yet, you'll have information about it as we lead up to it, but it might just be an interesting exercise in your gut's ability to like detect what you think went down. So I'm putting you to the test today, baby.
Okay, just please know as a baseline, my gut is very disturbed at this moment.
Well, that'll be even more interesting. It'll be
no coffee,
even more.
no water, nothing.
I know. I was going to say, could you even have lunch or what? No, it's like
I was like, well, it's 11, so it's early,
11.
but like, no, I can't have any coffee or like water with these teeth in.
Oh my God. So we're on
Suffering
shaky
from my
ground.
I was like, baby, my blood sugar's low. If you couldn't tell.
I wish I could give you my Halloween candies. My God.
I know. I gotta buy some too. I'm gonna make a Target run or some kind of run to Trader Joe's or something to get some candy. I need some.
Please, after this, you absolutely deserve it. Well, creepers, let me just say, welcome back for another Halloween episode. I am Melanie Daniels, joined by, what is it, Valak? What'd you say?
Valak.
Valak. It's reminding me of like some Vanna White. Valak coming down.
It's Valak, honey.
But welcome back, creepers. Every Friday, we dive into true crime stories from the unsolved to the paranormal to survival stories and beyond. And if you are new, you couldn't have found us at a better or a worse time, depending on how you look at it. But if you like this episode, go ahead and follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and make sure you hit that bell notification or the subscribe button, I think is what it is on Apple, so you never miss an episode from us. And if you like what you hear or what you see, which today, baby, I don't know if we're going to get many positive reviews.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm oozing. Scott, I called Scott about this and he was like, didn't you say you wanted your next costume to have like some sex appeal, be hot?
And you said, yeah, this is it.
I was like, what's the problem? What's the problem?
I see no difference between this and Jessica Rabbit, baby. It's one and the same. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this episode, please think about leaving us a positive comment on Spotify, positive review on Apple. Those really help us grow the show. And also tell your friends and family about us. I mean, this is a perfect time to really just bring them into the CreepTime universe. My God. And if you like us and you need a little bit of like a come down after our episodes, we do have a comedy after show called CreepTime After Dark, where it's like this kind of energy on steroids. It's really fun. And what else? And if you really like us, we've got a pretty extensive premium catalog at the moment. And I think we're going to be dropping some premium Halloween episodes, babies. So just stay tuned for that.
Those might be in costume as well. Who knows?
Exactly. Who knows? I'm like, what are we going to come up with for those?
I got one. So.
I don't have one yet, but
Mine's very simple, but
okay.
Again, it's impression forward, so we'll see how well that sells it.
Oh my God. Well, I'm beyond excited. But with that, should we get into the case of Jessica Renee Johnson?
Yes, I'm really interested, actually. I don't know how you feel about these, but I'm always interested, of course, in unsolved cases because there's something to like ruminate on, but unsolved deaths in particular because there is so much like bodily evidence that's usually left behind to kind of pull from.
Yeah.
I find those really interesting from like a conversational standpoint between us. I like those a lot.
Well, this one is so weird. Like I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about, and it's killing me not to like just give it away. So don't go past the first page for right now.
Oh, you dropped a link. Hold on.
I dropped a link. Sorry. Creepers, you know, the deal.
As you can imagine, I'm a little distracted by what's going on.
We're like checking. I just dropped Silas the Reddit doc, and that'll be up on Reddit. All these visuals so you can follow along. But I'm just going to give you a little bit more of a background on Jessica. And that first page is really just sort of a good look at Jessica and giving you a little bit of a visual picture. But like I mentioned, Jessica is 37 years old, and she is from this small town called Horn Lake, Mississippi. And at this time in her life, she had 2 kids. She had one 19-year-old son named Colin, and then she had an 8-year-old daughter named Eden Huckleberry, which I'm legitimately like obsessed with that name. I love that name. But there was, of course, kind of an age gap between them. So I tried to find out if maybe she had been married before or if she was still in touch with Colin or Eden's dad, but I didn't see anything about him being in the picture. What I did see, though, were references time and time again to the fact that Jessica absolutely adored her kids, and being a mom was truly her life's purpose. And not only was Jessica known for how much she loved being a mom, but I saw so many posts about her that were like, she was just such a glamour girl. And you can tell by those pictures. I mean, it's very typical, I would say, like the Deep South for a Southern girl, but she apparently did not leave the house without being fully glammed up, like full face of makeup, cute outfit on. And you can just tell from those photos, she took a lot of pride in looking good.
Yeah, this looks pretty modern too. Did you say what year it is?
It's 2017.
Okay, so that's pretty modern.
Yeah, it's not too long ago. Unfortunately, Jessica did have a struggle with addiction, particularly to Xanax, and that had been going on for quite a while. And her mom, Linda, who I think is also on that page, she described her as still a very functioning mom, though. And Jessica would really try to stay sober, like periodically, for the sake of her kids. But she started hanging around a rougher crowd at this moment, and she started going to a lot more parties. And also she had the sister Kayla, her mom Linda, and her dad David, who lived pretty close by. She actually lived with them at one point. But throughout this period where she kind of struggled with her addiction, they could always help out with babysitting. And it just made it easier for her to spend more time with these so-called friends who unfortunately kind of like fueled her addiction. So through this party crowd, Jessica ended up meeting a guy named Garland Hart, who eventually became her boyfriend. And Garland also sold drugs, including Xanax, and their relationship was very tumultuous from everything I read. He was reportedly very abusive. It was just her mom described it as a volatile situation. Just one of the relationships that was really fueled by the addiction and the partying and the addiction and the partying and that cycle. And her friend said that Garland wasn't really even her type at all, really. And Jessica was normally into like really clean cut guys. And Garland he was pretty heavily tattooed. He was just like a completely different vibe. And it seemed like one of those situations where she found herself trying to fix someone. And it ended up just kind of turning into a dead end. I think he's on the second page. I'm like, I hope that I don't have the revealing thing on the second page. I don't think I do. But just so you can get a visual.
I see him. He's right at the top though. So I just sort of see him. Such an interesting name, Garland. I've never heard that as a man's name. Is that a popular name in parts of the South?
Well, you know, what's so weird is that when I read this, I was like, good God, because I've always wanted to name, if I ever had a daughter, I always thought I would name her Elizabeth Garland because that's my dad's middle name is Garland. And that was my great-grandfather's, my grandfather's brother's name was Garland. So I think it is a Southern name.
It must be. Well, I kind of like it I know that's completely irrelevant to the case, but it just struck me. I was like, I've never heard of a man named Garland or a first name of Garland.
I think it is Southern. And but truly I was like, damn it. Like, I love that name. And now I feel like it's kind of being, soured by this case. But yeah, you got the visual of him. And I tried to pin down when Jessica met Garland. I couldn't find an exact timeline, but it's thought by her time of death in 2017 that they had been dating on and off for about 2 years. There was something interesting that I did find from October of 2013 that I thought might explain when they met. It's unclear if there's a tie in here, but I just thought it was an interesting nugget. But that month, October of 2013, she was actually arrested on a paraphernalia charge for a variety of drugs. But it didn't sound like, from what I read, that she was the one carrying it. It sounded like she was sort of guilty by association. And she was apparently with this group of guys who were selling, and she just kind of got caught up with them. But it made me wonder. I was like, I wonder if Garland was in that group, and that's sort of how they met, was even way back then. And I could not confirm that, but either way, I thought I should include it because it just proves that she had been struggling with the drugs and the partying at this point for about 4 years or so. It could have been further than that, but that was kind of the first moment I saw in the research.
Yeah.
But before we talk about the timeline, do you have just any feelings about Jessica and Garland's relationship I know it's just a visual, but looking at them, or just her profile or his in general?
Yeah, I think it kind of tracks with what you said before. I definitely get the sense of her being like sort of like a Southern belle, where she's like a little glamorous or likes to do a full face of makeup or jewelry. But it's interesting, the component with her struggles with addiction and seeking out someone and becoming his partner when he himself might have been an enabler or also might have been an addict or in a rough scene. And you brought up an interesting way to look at it of saying that maybe I think you sort of said something along the lines, I'll paraphrase, that like she felt that she could help him or something because he wasn't her type. He was completely opposite of what she usually goes for. I think that's a pattern that we see with not just women, but a lot of different people who get into relationships. They try to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the cycle, I feel like, of unfortunately abusive relationships. It's you fall back into the trap of like, today they were good to me, so tomorrow will be better. And then it's like, the cycle continues, and you never realize really how like futile it is, I guess, when you're in it.
Do you think he was an addict as well? Or was he just more of like an enabler? He was an addict.
Yes, he was definitely an addict. And I think I don't think the mugshot I have at the bottom of that page, which is unrelated to this case, I think he was arrested on like an assault charge, but he was a known dealer and addict.
And a user. Okay, gotcha.
And
yeah,
user,
because
yes.
that's interesting too. If she was like, because it sounds like there were different like periods in her life, and maybe her family was involved in this. It's hard to say, where she was trying to get sober, and maybe she was sober for a little bit, and then she would relapse, and the cycle repeats. It's so interesting, the idea of her seeking out someone who is also struggling with substance abuse and coming at it from a perspective of maybe, I want to fix him because I can't fix my own problem. Maybe I can fix someone else's.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so upsetting. And it's something that her friend said time and time again, that she was like, I'm going to fix him, because her friends were really the ones that were like, you need to get out of this. And she was like, no, he's doing a lot better today. He's been so good to me this week. And we'll get into all that later on too. But let's talk about the fateful days in question, which it'll be May 31st, 2017 till June 2nd, 2017. May 31st was the last day Jessica was seen alive in person by her family. And on that day, she had spent some really nice time with her kids and her mom. She and her two kids were actually at this point living with her mom and dad. Like they all lived under the same roof. So it was like grandparents were always around. And I think that was partly to keep things stable for her, but also just because Jessica loved being around her parents and having her kids there too. But that evening at around 6 p.m., Jessica decided that she was going to head over and hang out with Garland. And her parents certainly had feelings about the relationship and him, but at this point, they kind of knew the drill. Jessica was in another phase of trying to fix things with him. And at this point, Garland didn't even have his own place. He was apparently crashing at a friend's house, and that friend's name was Jesse Isaac. And Jesse's house was on a street called Angel Drive, which was about 5 miles from Jessica's parents' house, so not very far away at all. Now, Jesse actually has given some quotes in the past about seeing Jessica and Garland's relationship together, how they interact. And honestly, this guy, Jesse, really annoys me, so I'm going to try to temper myself. But he's just sort of like a bystander in this whole case about everything, when I feel like there were moments he could have jumped in or whatever, but I will keep my opinion to myself for now. But as he described it, Jessica would come over to the house where Garland was staying, and she would come over for like maybe a day or two at a time. And he said when she showed up on the 31st, he described her emotional state and the kind of state of the relationship as, quote, lovesick. And from what I could gather, it was sort of the pattern, as we've been talking about. You see a lot in abusive relationships where there are these really high highs and these low lows. And apparently when she got there, it was one of those high moments. They had been fighting earlier that week. And now she was just sort of like really high energy and almost like borderline a little bit like manic energy, just sort of all over the place. What's also really upsetting is that Jessica's mom has talked about this dynamic too, because when Jessica was at home with her mom and away from Garland, she said she'd be doing a lot better. And then suddenly, like on the 31st, she'd say, Mom, I'm going to go over to Garland's. And everyone sort of knew, here we go. She's going to be gone for a couple of days. And they also knew that when she got back, it would probably be more low moments again. And they'd sort of pick her up, pull her up by the bootstraps and sort of rebuild her confidence. It was sort of this pattern. So it's just a really heartbreaking dynamic when you think about it. But yes, Jessie basically described her as emotionally sort of all over the place during this particular visit. So the 31st was the first night she was there. And then on the second night, which was June 1st, they ended up throwing this party at Jessie's house. And from what it sounded like, it was a lot of like usual kind of bad news crowd that was coming around, lots of drugs, lots of alcohol. And of course, that's going to create, in my opinion, sort of the perfect storm for a disaster for a couple that's sort of on, rocky ground at that moment. So as Jessie described it, Jessica and Garland were doing some drugs, and then they ended up getting into a really heated argument that was very awkward for everyone else at the party. And Jessie basically told them to take it outside. And here's where things start to get weird. According to Jessie, though it's not clear to me how he would know this if he wasn't outside, Garland apparently later said that Jessica was so upset that she took the shoelaces out of her shoes and threatened to hang herself with them. So that's the story. That's the story that Garland gave, that she made this threat in the heat of their argument, which we'll get to what we think the argument might have been about in a little bit. But as you can imagine, that's a pretty strange and unsettling piece of information for anybody to hear.
Yeah.
So basically, after she said she was going to threaten to hurt herself, Garland kind of brushed it off and was like, oh, you're just being crazy. Like, go ahead, see if I care. And then he literally shuts the door on her. And supposedly that's when she left. But one thing I do want to call out is that earlier that day, Jessica had been FaceTiming with her mom and her kids, and it really seemed like she wanted to come back home that night. So my guess is that maybe once the partying and the drugs started up, she ended up deciding not to leave, or maybe she felt like she couldn't because Garland was kind of giving her hell for it, even though he ends up kicking her out anyway. But in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe she was like, I got to get back home to the kids. And he's like, oh, of course you're going to leave me. I started to visualize that in my mind. But that last FaceTime is so heartbreaking in hindsight because it feels like maybe that was her sort of reaching out for a lifeline before things spiraled, or even like a way of holding herself accountable. And here's the thing. According to Jessica's mom, when Jessica said she was going to come home to be with the kids, she almost, even if she was out partying, she almost always followed through. And it really wasn't like her to not show up when it was about the children. So this FaceTime happened earlier that day. And then as the evening went on and Jessica still hadn't come home, her mom started to get worried. And she was texting her, she was calling her, and there was nothing back, which was very strange. But at
roughly
that point,
how late is this at night, would you say?
I'm going to say we're probably, at the moment that this whole argument takes place, we're probably at like 10, 11 p.m.
Got it. Okay. So it's still relatively early. I would consider that early in the night.
Yeah. For a party, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're supposed to be home tucking your kids into bed, mom's, grandma's going, where are you? But at that point, her mom didn't call the police or anything because it didn't feel like an immediate crisis, especially since this was typical for her to be gone for a couple of days at a time if Garland was sort of in the mix. But she did have a weird feeling, gut feeling that something was off. And here's something I have to note that is so chilling from the research. But apparently when Jessica left this time, she said to her mom, if anything happens to me, I want you to look at Garland. I want you to know it probably has something to do with him or his friends.
Oh, okay.
And when I saw that, I just got like full body chills. I was like, oh my God. So in the back of her head, her mom not being able to get in touch with her, and then her saying that. And then one other odd thing was that normally Jessica, I guess, would like drop a pin. She would drop her location if she was out and about. And she didn't do that this time. And that was just another indication that things were stranger than usual in a situation that already was starting to feel strange. And things are only about to get stranger and more tragic from here. So before I launch into the day she was actually found, I kind of just want to get your take on that whole, honestly, like your take with the mom. Like, do you think she should have called sooner, like acted on her gut? It's just such a weird dynamic because she's trying to do the right thing, but mother's intuition is it's almost always on.
I don't know. I mean, it's so tricky with like cases like this because I almost, unless the parents are overtly involved, I almost never look at their actions as anything other than like, it could have gone this way, it could have gone that way. There's very little you can do to control those situations. It's just interesting that she had that sort of gut reaction and she felt that something might be off with her daughter or that something wasn't quite right about this particular situation. But that's what we do. We rationalize the irrational to calm ourselves, to like quell our own anxieties. I'm actually more interested in the party scenario. So the party is going on at this house. And to be clear, this is technically Garland's house, right?
No, it's Jesse's house.
Jesse's house. Okay, sorry. It's Jesse's house. Yes. He's the friend. Garland is technically the last person. So he says to see her because he's the one who slams the door in her face.
And he's the one that has the argument with her outside. And that's sort of the last confirmation that we know she had a conversation with somebody was Garland, and then Garland going back inside and telling Jesse like, oh God, she threatened to hang herself with her shoelaces.
God, I mean, from everything, it sounds like most of the party was contained indoors. I have no idea how many people were at this party, but it is also kind of like butting into summer at this point because it's the 31st into June 1st. So I was imagining it as a warmer night. I was like, maybe there were other people outside who might have heard things or they were on the deck or like behind the house. I have no idea. I'm like crafting the narrative, but it's interesting. I just was thinking, I'm like, I wonder who inevitably might have seen something. That's my big ask.
I thought about that too. I think that most of the party was indoors. And to your point, this is not butting into summer. This is deep South summer. It is hot in Mississippi. So it's already
good to know.
Very, very
okay.
warm.
I was kind of wondering because I'm basing it all off of like Connecticut summers. And I'm like, the 31st is like warm, I guess, but it's not blaringly hot. But that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that might inform how you kind of view the mysterious death as we get into the details of it too. But it's hot. So I'm sure most people were probably indoors, or if they were outside, it was probably going to be a little toasty, even at night. I know that. And Mississippi is even further down. So, but yeah, it's about to get a lot stranger from here. So we're going to jump into the day that Jessica was found on June 2nd, 2017. So very early that morning, a postal worker who was doing their usual mail delivery route stumbled across the body of Jessica Renee Johnson. And I will, before I tell you to go look at the picture in Creepers, I'm just going to give a heads up that I will have the photo on Reddit. It is a very disturbing and graphic photo, so viewer discretion is advised. Oof. But just know that this is the photograph that was taken at the scene when she was found. So, and you can go ahead, and I'm going to pause in just a second to get your thoughts.
Okay.
I think it's on that next page. But in this photo, the way that she was found is basically kneeling in this little patch of grass next to a wooden mailbox. And she was actually hanged from this mailbox. So 2 shoelace strings had been tied together to form a long enough noose to put around her neck and then tied to this pole that held up the mailbox. And she sort of just leaned over in what police thought looked like a suicidal position initially. And I should say very much initially. So before I do a deeper dive, I just want to get your first thoughts on what you see from that picture, just gut feelings.
Ooh, this is, I think I like had a little bit of shock in just seeing it. I've never seen a dead body in a position like this ever. This is so strange. I honestly, like at first glance, if I was at a distance, I wouldn't even know she's dead.
Yeah. That's what the postal worker felt. They didn't know what they were looking at when they
It looks like
first
she
came up.
I mean, for those who don't want to actually see this and like look at the photo, so viewer discretion advised, but like I can just describe a little bit of what I'm seeing. So this is in like a tall grass area, just like you said, next to the post by the mailbox. And yeah, very like open, like woodsy, grassy land. And she is literally kneeling kneeling as if she's like sat.
Mhm.
And her left shoulder is leaned up against the post and her head is propped up against it. Although her head looks very stable, almost like her head is upright. Parts of it are blurred. Her face is blurred.
Damn, you're good. I swear. It's literally a blurred photograph and you're able to pick up on something I'm going to explain in just a second.
Well, I'm just like, I'm looking at it. It's the strangest thing, Stu. Like I truly, and I've seen crime scene photos. We've covered a lot of cases and I always look for like the nitty gritty so I can see for myself. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Mm-hmm.
This is so bizarre. And the shoelace string. Yeah. Just like you said, the shoelace string tied around the neck, tied up to the post. That's basically holding her upright there. It's so weird.
I'm gonna just go ahead and dive into all of the odd things that we can observe from it. So you can see, you can't see in the version that I have because her face is blurred out on the Reddit doc. But one of the shoelaces, and this is why I was like, "Damn, you're good," is it's actually sort of tied across her face, almost lifting up her lips in a way that made it look like she was smiling. So that's why her face kind of looks like it's like leaned over and taut. It's very strange. So she's got shoelaces across her face. And then to actually do this, to take her own life, she would have had to have used her own body weight, full body weight, to strangle herself. And as you can see in that picture, she is leaned over to the side, like leaning against the mailbox, which you said, which is just bizarre. And then furthermore, for her to strangle herself to death without the gravity of full body weight, like had she stepped off of something, it would have been extremely painful and really arduous for her to have done this herself.
I don't even know how it's possible.
I know it's beyond, and I
Creeper,
can't wait.
She's on the ground. She's like 3 feet. She's kneeling. Her legs are on the ground. Like she's not suspended at all. That's crazy.
No, not at all. Another detail, when she was found, the shoelaces that were wrapped around her neck were also like tangled up in her hair. And it kind of made me think of like, in Phantom of the Opera, when they're like, keep the hand at the level of your eye. It's because you're creating a buffer between yourself and the rope. And her hair was all completely still in there. And she had thick hair. So it would have made it even harder for her to do this herself, which is just another weird layer to it. And then also when they found her, she had her, and I think I've got a close up of it, but she had her purse in her hands and it was open. And actually in her right hand, she had like a little change purse that she would have kept inside her actual purse. So it seemed like she was maybe rummaging through her purse or holding on to that little change purse at the time of her death. And that just adds another layer of strangeness, unless we're to believe that she somehow planned this with the shoelaces maybe were in her purse and she took them out, which doesn't really make sense. It's just, it's so strange. But one big question that came up was, did she even have shoelaced shoes on? And at first, when they found her, the answer was no, she had no shoes on. So later on, when the quote unquote investigation was done, they found a pair of women's sneakers inside the house. I think they were like Converse or something. I think I have a picture of them, but they had no shoelaces in them. I also just want to point out something that her mom said, which is that Jessica barely ever wore sneakers. Her mom like basically joked. She said, I don't even know if she knows how to tie shoelaces because all I ever saw her wear were high heels or like wedges. And not only that, when she was found, if you look at the picture, she's wearing like a camo t-shirt and jeans, which are very casual clothes for her. It's something that her mom said she would have never seen her walking around in before, which I'm sort of like, take that with a grain of salt. She could have changed into comfier clothes, maybe Garland's clothes or something. Sure. But she says Jessica would have never gone to a party looking like this. She would have been glammed up. Now, let's talk about what happens when the police get there. And spoiler alert, it's not good. If you were guessing that county kind of botched their initial investigation, you would be right. So from what I was reading, sounds like it was very messy. And at one point, apparently an officer drove like right up to the mailbox and got exhaust all over the body, which I was
Jesus Christ.
I know. I was like, incredible. Like,
I'm
it'll
like, don't
never
piss
cease
me
to
off on
amaze
this
me.
morning.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah, blue exhaust on the body, which I don't know how big of a deal that is for a medical examiner. I would imagine it would disturb things, but I guess it wasn't like enough that it was thought to have completely contaminated the scene. But we'll get to it later.
And it's lazy. It's not laziness. What's the word I'm looking for? It's careless. It's very careless.
Careless, yes. And I had that in my research. I said it shows how careless things were. And then you had apparently officers that were like junior officers kind of like traipsing around the body. It sounded like from one report that one of them even touched the body, but they had a bunch of like junior officers kind of walking around. They did not secure it off well at the beginning. And the kicker is that the county coroner, a guy named Jeff Pounders, basically pronounced Jessica's death as a suicide right there on site. And when I started digging into, I was like, are there autopsy details? Like, what's going on? At first, there was apparently no record of an autopsy performed at all. And then later on, DeSoto County magically produced a partial autopsy document, which to me sounds like total nonsense. So obviously that initial ruling sans autopsy and then producing one seemed incredibly, even more careless to me and like unbelievable. But what really became even more nonsensical, especially to Jessica's mom and her family, was just the idea that she would have taken her own life at all. And I know we talk about this all the time where it's like families say they can't believe it and they never saw it coming, but we never know what goes on behind closed doors. This just felt so different to me. And her mom pointed out that the idea that Jessica would say she was coming home to see her kids and then not show up at all and then end her life, it just didn't add up to her. She felt like if Jessica was planning to take her own life, she would not have called and said she was coming home, which I thought that was interesting too. And here's a detail that just adds another layer of weirdness. They were able to take a look at Jessica's son's phone, Colin, and he reportedly got a text from her phone at 3:30 that morning, like 3:30 a.m., the day that she was found. They never revealed what the text said, but her mom said, I don't believe for a second that Jessica sent this message to Colin. And it felt
Might
like
be something to sort of plant the seed of suicide.
Yes. And it felt staged or like somebody was trying to make it look like everything was just fine. Now, another obvious avenue that the family is thinking of is, did she overdose or did somebody overdose her and then they panicked and they staged the body? And I think this is maybe where the partial autopsy mention comes into play. Apparently, they did run a toxicology report and they did find meth and Xanax in her bloodstream, but it wasn't at a level that the medical examiner thought would have caused an overdose. To me, I think the only thing they probably did in that so-called partial autopsy was maybe this toxicology report. It just seems like police sort of framed it as, okay, you know what? She was a drug addict. She hung out with a rough crowd, and it's just easier to kind of close the case and run with this narrative that she had drugs in her system and she was a party girl. And I just had to mention that because I'm like, I don't know how else you justify such a bare minimum approach.
I was actually, while you were talking about this, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this is something for like the legal creepers to weigh in on. If, God forbid, if anyone ever found themselves in the situation as the family, what legally can you do to like ensure that your loved one receives an autopsy? Like, what prohibits a coroner or police or anybody with any sort of authority from just like closing the book on this?
Yeah.
And just saying, nope, I mean, it looks like a suicide, so we're going to rule it a suicide. Autopsy is not necessary, so we're not going to petition for it and it's not going to be funded. I mean, I suppose you could always petition to hire a private medical examiner and have an autopsy. Some families do raise money to do that, but like, I'm so curious, like legally, what the hell can you do to protect yourself if you think something is suspicious, to have people actually look at it as suspicious?
Maybe I'm just naive. I didn't even know that was possible. I thought that it was a comment, like it was a practice. You got to check the box that you've done. I didn't even know it was possible to just not do an autopsy at all.
Yeah, well, families can definitely deny it. They can say we don't want an autopsy.
I remember that.
That's true. I think, well, as soon as you said that the coroner, because for some reason, there is no good coroner in any case we've ever covered. The coroner is always screwing things up and they're always just getting in the way. And I'm like, how about you just don't show up to the scene this time. Just send it straight to the medical examiner, straight to the MD. We don't need the coroner on the scene.
These
I'm so sorry.
two characters would be better coroners, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to the creeper coroners, but like, I mean, what is this track record? Like, my God.
Not good.
They always call it, in mysterious deaths, they always call it a suicide. It's always wrong, in my opinion, allegedly.
Well, what? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm just like, they always call it. And the reason that I don't like it is because it then etches out the possibility for someone to say, oh, we should really have this body examined. There should be an autopsy. Never happens.
It always baffles me in mysterious death cases because I'm like, if I were a coroner or a medical examiner, what an opportunity for me to sort of like crack the code on something that's not obvious to me initially. Like, and I know that maybe that's just wishful thinking, but if you're really passionate about the like your job and you want to get to the bottom of it, like, wouldn't this be a really interesting thing for you to discover, like, or hope to discover what actually happened? And that's kind of part of it. Sometimes I'm like, maybe it's just that they don't want their egos bruised, that they like can't crack what actually happened. I don't know.
Sure.
But,
I mean, nobody wants to be told that like they're wrong or they got it wrong. But more often than not, especially when the coroners get involved versus the medical examiners, the MDs, that's the case.
It also
in mysterious deaths, I should say.
Yes.
I think most coroners generally are able to like accurately pronounce a body dead and say like this is suspicious or this isn't.
Just a moment of levity. I was talking with my little brother Blake last night about that video game that I love, LA Noire. I know I've told you about it before, but the coroner was like my favorite character in that game, and this is making me so sad. I'm like, I wish that he could
because
be a
he
part
was
of,
fictional, baby. Because he did his job in the game.
I know. I'm itching to play that game, but okay,
also,
anyways.
I keep forgetting there's a bird on your head. I keep thinking it's some kind of intricate hat, and then you like duck down for a second. I'm like, Mama, that's a full crow.
That's a full
crow.
Crow, the raven.
The raven.
Pecking away at my head. It was so funny. I put blood where it would peck, and then I was like, wait, I might have to repurpose this wig for a premium. So I was like, I think
it's probably, if it's synthetic, there's an easy way to get that out. I think with just like a little bit of like dish detergent, I think.
Maybe. Let's call the wig stylist. I gotta get him on speed dial at this point.
We gotta make some calls.
we gotta make the calls to you.
As you can see, I'm sans wig today.
I bet it feels good. It feels good.
It feels good to not have nails. Although I couldn't be bothered to wear the gloves. Feels good to not have to do makeup down the neck. You can look under here. That's skin, Mama.
Wait.
That's
Let me
skin.
go back. Oh God, I love it so much. You could also.
Sorry, I'll let you continue.
I know. No, I'll continue. But it's giving Voldemort too. You could honestly do that at some point with the makeup story.
You're really testing my skills now. I'm like, let me make my nose disappear.
Like actually prosthetic. I would die. Oh my God, are you kidding? Okay. But back to the case. But anyway, when police finally start investigating the actual night, they find out there's a security camera on the property that faces the mailbox. And it's not funny. I don't know why I said it's almost funny. It's not funny because what I read is the police didn't even like initially ask for the footage when they found this out. I guess the Jesse guy was like, oh yeah, I've actually got a camera on my property. And then they were sort of like looking at each other like, I guess we should review it. Like
taxpayer dollars.
I know.
Funding the salaries and the pensions.
So, but here's where it gets so weird. He mentions it. He says, I got a camera on the property. And then Jesse's story gets shady and he says, it wasn't on that day. At first, this is his first excuse. He says, oh, actually, I don't think I had it running that day. And they're like, okay. And then he says, oh, actually, maybe it might have been, but I don't know the passcode to the camera, which who doesn't know their own camera passcode? I didn't even know that was a thing with like, I'm assuming this is similar to like a Ring camera maybe or
if
something.
It's like a security system. Like I have like a 4-digit code, but again, you set that up. Like nobody sets it up but you.
So he says to police, I don't even know what the code is. So none of it adds up. On top of that, police didn't seem to push very hard to get the tapes, which just makes the whole thing more frustrating. So at this point, we are a couple of weeks into the investigation after Jessica's death, and her family is understandably furious. They feel like DeSoto County is just not helping them at all, almost like working against them. So they decide to hire their own private investigator. And here's a name you might recognize. Do you recognize the name Maurice Godwin by chance?
That sounds the last name sounds very familiar. Where's that from?
He worked on the Casey Anthony case, which is, it's kind of incredible that they've got him for this. I don't know I imagine he's probably pretty expensive, but maybe he took it kind of like, I don't know, is pro bono like the right word? But
yeah, it could be.
He came in and he was very interested in this case, and he said there's no way that this was a suicide, and he breaks it all down for the family. He basically says the way the shoelaces were wrapped, the pressure she would have had to have generated on her own, and the fact that her hair was even acting as a bit of a buffer, like we discussed before, he said it makes it almost 0% likely that she could have done this to herself. Not only that, but he notes that the majority of the pressure would have been on her cheekbone because of where that weird shoelace kind of had been tied across her face that I told you about earlier.
I was wondering about that. Like, were they presuming like it was originally on her neck, and after she had sort of like hung herself or strangled herself to death, like it like slid up to the cheekbone or something?
Yes,
but it sounds like this guy. Okay.
Yeah, like as she was leaning over, the thing went like up to her cheekbone. And also, like I teased earlier, he is the one that says if, and it's a big if, this were possible that she did take her own life, she would have been in unbearable pain that would have taken her a long time to actually die and asphyxiate herself. And that's basically all the family really needed to hear. Not only that, it was highly unlikely that she would have, taken her own life, but that if she wanted to take her own life, they did not feel like she would have done it this way. There was just like no way in their minds. He also notes that the shoelace strings are tied together very precisely. And according to the timeline presented by Jesse and Garland, she would have had to have done this in the middle of the night in the pitch black. Now, in my mind, I was wondering, I was like, did she have her purse open, like trying to find a flashlight to use on her phone or something? If I'm just playing devil's advocate, and I that's possible.
Sure.
Also, I know you're going to ask, did she have her phone on her? Or was it eventually found? And yes, the phone was found. Her phone, along with her phone charger, was actually with her. However, police have supposedly never been able to access the phone. They have cited that the phone is locked and they are unable to bypass the passcode, nor can they get the cell phone carrier to unlock it for them. I'm baffled. This is
Mama,
also
sick to giving parking tickets. Like they're not cut out for this.
And this is really morbid, but in my mind, I was like, could they have used because I think didn't Face ID come out in like 2017-ish, maybe, or maybe it was just like finger passcodes.
I think finger passcodes were still around then. Actually, there is another case that is eerily similar to that exact thing with like a girl who was murdered. Her boyfriend or partner at the time who had killed her severed her finger to be able to use her finger pad to get into her phone.
Oh my God. Well,
that is entirely possible.
To that point, I was like, did they not think to maybe like use her finger to try to get into the phone? Also, the cell phone is apparently in her dad's name, and he asked the cell phone carrier to provide the passcode, but they refused without police interference.
Yeah, there's usually there's a lot of hoops for that for some reason. The cell phone carriers are very protective of that, unless I think you really have to get a warrant issued for it. And even then, I think it takes time.
I actually remember you telling me that in like a really early on CreepTime case, and I was shocked by that. I don't remember what the case was, but I remember you telling me, I was like, there's no way, but it is true. And it sounds like police were unwilling to do the paperwork. Convenient. And if someone had been smart enough to maybe try Face ID, try a fingerprint, she was cremated pretty shortly after she died.
No.
So there was no
Are you
chance.
Serious?
Yeah, her family just due to financial reasons.
Oh my God, no.
So they felt like they realized it too late, which is super tragic.
Oh, there can't even be a second examination. Oh my God.
I know. Really, really sad. And like I can't even, it like makes me want to cry, but like her family kind of beating themselves up for that after they kind of realized it's just terrible. But other things that Godwin notes, number one, obviously the whole thing looks staged, but from the odd way that she was sort of leaned into the mailbox to the purse being open and in her hands, he just felt like it was made to look a certain way. And he also wondered, and I thought this was a really interesting observation, that could she have been trying to get into her wallet and maybe take out like money or cash to ask or beg her assailant not to kill her? I mean, that's all speculation on his part, but I thought that was really interesting. But he does have two visual observations that he makes about the body that are incredibly hard to explain or dispute. So first, Godwin gets access to the pictures of her body taken at the morgue, one of which I think I have included for you. It's of her arm, and it might be on the last page, but he notes that it was pretty clear Jessica had bruising around her wrists that suggested someone had either tied her up or held her wrists extremely tightly. And then there's this really odd print on one of her arms, the arm that you can't really see in the mailbox photo. And he says it looks like a boot print. And when he mentions that to police, they say, oh, no, we figured that was from the patches of grass. It looks a lot like grass prints, which I was like, oh my God. God. So take that with a grain of salt. But Godwin also points out that one of the straps on her purse was ripped, and that made him wonder if someone had grabbed something out of her hand or if there had been a struggle. And then the detail that really stood out, and this was actually the picture I wanted you to see, on that same arm, he saw in the morgue photos all these weird little bloody spots, like almost like, I mean, how would you describe them? They look like burn marks to me, or like little pricks.
I can't really tell. At first glance, I thought it was like blood splatter, but now that I'm looking at them, they do look like they're indented into the skin. I don't really know what those could be. I think a medical examiner would have to tell me like what I'm actually looking at. Burn marks is an interesting angle.
Yeah. Well, he thought that maybe they were like chemical burns or something, but definitely looked like a struggle to him. And I do want to get your thoughts in just a sec, but from what I read, his thought about those marks, he thought that maybe she had possibly been poked or injected or burned with something. And that really just stuck with her mom. For some reason, her mom felt like that had a ton of legs. I'm not sure how I feel about, like, I was just wondering, I'm like, what would they have injected her? I mean, obviously drugs and stuff, but there's so many creepers you'll see, like so many marks. But I don't know.
Well, that's the other component I don't want to like evade, is that she was using at the time. And it sounds like she did have meth in her system. That was confirmed. So at first glance, I was like, well, they could be meth scabs, just from picking or from scratching. That's
that's a good point.
Strong possibility. They don't look like scabs to me, but I mean, they don't not look like scabs, if that makes sense. I'm more so interested in the bruising around the wrist. It was the first thing I was thinking of because I was so interested in what you were saying about her possibly reaching for the purse. And we're like, what the hell could have been in the purse?
What is that about?
Like, not all women do this. Some women do. They will keep little things in their purse for nails or like nail clippers. And I kept thinking, I was like, was she trying to get something to maybe cut the shoelace?
Wait, I don't even think I put it. Maybe I did put it in the research. She had a ton of blood underneath her fingernails too. I don't know if that.
Blood under her fingernails.
Yeah.
I mean, that also kind of tracks in a weird way. I suppose like less with the mysterious death. Yeah, well, you're scratching it yourself, but I think we would see more obvious signs of that. But that could have been that. I mean, it's interesting because is it her blood or is it someone else's? If the fight was really scrappy.
Right.
Like, we don't even know really what their argument spiraled out into, if there was violence between her and Garland. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, let me just add the last kind of thing that really shocked me. But when he looked at the morgue photos, in his expert opinion, he thought that Jessica's body had been dead for at least 8 hours before she was found.
Okay.
And I don't know. You can't really tell too much. I mean, there's only like one morgue photograph that I could even find. But he said that just from the photo, he mentioned that the state of the temperature and skin coloring made it pretty clear to him, and he felt very confident about that. And that timing, of course, becomes a big deal when you consider that the postal worker found her early in the morning, and if she had already been gone that long, it raises questions about that 3:30 a.m. text message to her son. That would place her time of death, if he's correct, closer to midnight or 2 a.m., which honestly makes more sense because it's just, I mean, I was trying to imagine, I'm like, I don't even know like what she would be texting. And I don't know, I wish I knew what the contents of the text message were, but it's hard to imagine her casually texting her teenage son at 3:30 in the morning, unless I was thinking to myself, maybe she was in danger and reaching out for help. But I feel like if that was the content of the text message, we would know that.
I wish we knew more about that text. I think it could tell us so much, because I feel like we'd be able to read through that, to be honest, to say like, is somebody planting something? Is somebody trying to make it seem like she's on the verge of suicide or that she's totally fine? Is it like a goodbye message or like, what is it? It's strange that the family went to the lengths of like hiring a private investigator and they sort of want more attention on her story, but that's one piece of this they're kind of guarding.
I know. And I don't know. I mean, let's talk about that, because I don't know what, maybe it would just come off as like too casual, whatever was sent, or I guess just believable that it could have been her. I don't know why they wouldn't want to share it, even if
like
that
it's
were
protection of their narrative. They're like, well, if it looks too believably like a suicide note or something, maybe that hurts our credibility in saying that this isn't suicide,
Yeah.
Or maybe it could also be like protecting the last little piece of privacy that she has in this. I was listening to somebody recently who was talking about like the phenomenon when it comes to true crime that when you die in a horrific way or you're murdered, your story and a lot of you does become very vulnerable even after death. Like you become very vulnerable to the world where everybody wants to pick apart every last inch of like the final moments of your life. What did you look like? You know, what did you send? What was on your phone? What was your search history? Your privacy is erased. And in some ways I understand like where people take like an ethical boundary with that. And on the other side of it, it is often the key to actually uncovering what really happened in these stories.
I know. I almost wonder if, because I think that Garland probably knew that she was supposed to go home that night. I don't know. I mean, this is really just, I'm speculating, but I feel like part of their fight could have been, you choose your family over me. I feel like that also would explain the cyclical nature of her going home and leaving and going home and leaving. So I almost wonder if he allegedly sent that text, if it was something that was sort of like innocuous, like it was like, I love you, or I'm coming home, like something he would have known that she, like he knew that she was supposed to come home that day. So it would have sounded plausible, whatever he sent.
And it would also be relevant to the timing that it was sent, 3 a.m. versus like when the argument supposedly happened, which was around like, I think you said 11, maybe 10 or 11.
Like 10, 11.
It's a lot of time in between. That's a significant amount of time where there could have been a lot of rumination with her. Maybe like if this was suicide, let's say, like, is she thinking about taking her life? Is she going back and forth about it? Is she coming down from a high, or is something else going on?
Right.
That's the question.
Right. Well, should we dive into our suspects a little bit more? I mean, I know there's one glaring one, the obvious one, which is her abusive boyfriend, Garland, who was never charged with anything in this case. Kind of makes you wonder if he had connections with DeSoto County Police.
I was going to ask, I'm like, anybody connected to police in this town? Just curious.
I know. And I don't know if it was that, if they just didn't want to dig any deeper because this guy had a record. The odd part is that Garland later on had a girlfriend who claimed that he was with her that night after the argument. Basically, he had been two-timing Jessica and that he had an alibi, which was him going over to her place. And I guess that was enough for police to not take him as seriously as a suspect. Another item that makes him suspicious AF, multiple people had seen Jessica and Garland together that night at the party, including the guy he was staying with, Jesse. So it's awfully convenient that suddenly Garland leaves at the exact same time Jessica supposedly leaves to go be with another woman. And now this is his alibi. On top of that, I read that both Jesse and Garland have now gone on record saying they don't believe it was a suicide either, which kind of feels like a major overcorrection in my mind to maybe like look like good guys. Like they're basically saying, we need to find out who did this. And I feel like I can see through that. I hear you breathing on the other side. So I'm like, I know I'm going hard, so you don't have to go as hard as I am. But.
Well, I don't think I was anticipating that, because usually these guys, they fight to the bitter end and they're like, nope, just like let the story die where it is. Very, very interesting that now suddenly, I mean, maybe there's a protection in knowing that her body is gone, physically gone.
Yeah.
And that this almost can't have a second review.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. And there's more. So just recently before that party, Jessica had a couple of big fights with Garland, like that week leading up. And her friends have said they often had to go pick her up from situations with him. One friend I was reading about, her name's Michelle, mentioned that Jessica literally said, I feel like this guy is going to kill me. Another friend named Leanne said just a week before Jessica's death, she had to pick her up from Jesse's place because Garland had allegedly locked her in a bathroom and taken her phone. So he definitely knew the phone passcode, if I had to guess. And he had a pattern of gaslighting her and making her feel like she was the problem. And multiple friends, I know this is, hearsay, but multiple friends I read vouch for this. There was also a friend named Katie who Jessica went to actually pick up from work while she was staying at Jesse's, I think on June 1st, which was a Thursday, I believe. So the day in between the first day she got there and the day that she was found. And when Jessica got there, Katie said that she was in tears and confided that she had just had this huge fight with Garland and she was pretty sure he was cheating on her, and that Jesse had literally just called her and said, hey, I just walked in and Garland's got 2 other chicks here in the house. So in that moment. I'm not sure why. It seemed like Jesse was maybe even trying to like look out for Jessica or tip her off to what was going on. But that would have been the same day as the party later on that night, which like would tail into, after midnight and 2 a.m., whatever. So basically, Jessica picks up Katie that afternoon. She dropped her off at around 6, and then she went back to where the party was happening. So you can just kind of see how that tension and the argument could have escalated from there. But like I said, it just makes it even more bizarre that they would have this blow up, leave, and then somehow she ended up at Jesse's mailbox and supposedly had taken her own life. It doesn't add up. And just to wrap up with a couple of other pieces of, I wrote nonsense, by which I mean completely botched police work. None of the DNA testing that should have been done on the shoelaces, her clothing, her purse, underneath her nails ever happened. And supposedly the shoelaces that were tied.
What is this case? What is going on?
It's wild. It's wild.
Oh my God.
And the
was a medical exam even done? Like what?
Literally no. The shoelaces that were tied around her neck are now apparently lost.
Of course.
Her clothing, rather than being preserved, was apparently destroyed in a biohazard disposal when she was cremated, which to me sounds completely unbelievable. Those 2 pieces alone are just like so unforgivable to me and really just show how badly this case was mishandled. It's no wonder.
I gotta be honest, it's feeling less like mishandling. It's feeling more like a cover up. It's really starting to feel more like cover up.
Yeah.
Too many things are going missing unintentionally.
And just like beyond. And creepers, trust me that I had tried to find. I was like, there's no way. Like, there's got to be more to the story here. No, they just were gone. And it really does just feel like one of those cases where the system completely failed her and her family. Like, I literally don't know how you lose the shoelaces that were around the body. How do you destroy her clothes before they're ever tested? How do you not run DNA testing on the blood underneath her fingernails? Like every detail that should have been looked at just wasn't. And now all that evidence is gone. And it leaves this giant hole where justice should be. And her family is still sitting in that silence with no answers and no closure. And I will just say it. I think that Jessica was just dismissed as a human being because of her past, because of her addiction, maybe even the way that she kind of dressed, who she hung out with. And I think people in DeSoto County decided that she just wasn't worth the effort, but she deserved the exact same investigation that anybody else would have gotten. The idea that this could happen to someone and it was just brushed off that easily is infuriating to me, as I'm sure you can probably tell from the way I'm talking, but I really would love to hear what you think. I mean, do you feel like there is a scenario where she could have done this to herself and I'm a little bit like blindsided, or do you think it's just as obvious to you as it feels to me that maybe somebody else, Garland or whomever, was involved?
I think there's always the potential for a scenario where it is just a strange looking suicide. That is always like the thing that hangs over my head with these is I'm like, there's a possibility, of course, and we have to concede to that. The thing that I can't shake is that, yes, like in the beginning, I'm like, a lot of this just seems like laziness or it's negligence or it's carelessness. It really, really, really is compounding for me and feeling more and more like there is somebody on the inside at this county police force who wants to make this go away. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they're connected to Garland or possibly even connected to Jesse, but baseline, like the thing that could really tell our story is that security camera that's outside of Jesse's house, because this isn't very far from his house from what I can see in the pictures. I know they hit the roadblock where they said, he goes, well, I can't remember my password for it. Okay, then you sit with them, call the company that manufactures the camera or runs the security system. You definitely have an email registered with them. That's how you set up your password. They should be able to reset it for you. That should give us access. Nobody is taking the extra step, the obvious step, which to me feels deliberate. I don't know how it feels to you, but I'm like, there is no way people are this incompetent. I refuse to believe it. Refuse.
Same. Throughout it, I was thinking to myself about the Sandy Ray case a little bit. And I was thinking, was there someone at that party that's a cop? Is what allegedly my opinion. That's all I kept thinking.
I was going to ask about that. Do we know anything? Who do you think was at the party?
I think it was that same sort of like rough crowd that ran. I couldn't find anything about who was at that party.
I'm sure they wanted to stay quiet if they were there.
Yeah. But let me say, there is one thing, and I found it sort of in the 11th hour on Jesse's Facebook page. But
of all places, my God.
Of all places. But he posted this really weird thing that's supposedly related to like around this time period. And it says, F the city of Horn Lake. We're going to court Emmer Effers. Y'all better get ready to start calling me Mayor Jesse because I'm about to own this S-hole of a town. First order of business is firing the whole crooked A water department, code enforcement. And it goes on and on and on. But I was like, because you punk like, wait.
108.
108.
I also got to be honest. I'm like, this just sounds in the territory of like meth head Facebook post.
It does. But there's always a little bit of something. There might be a nugget in here.
It comes from something. It does.
I know. So I was wondering, I was like, did somebody, maybe speak? And he started to freak out a little bit. I don't know. I just included that because I was like, that's weird that you would post that right around this time.
How small do you think this town is? It seems small.
It's small. It's very small. I actually looked up the population. I want to say it's like, let's see, before I misspeak.
Like maybe under 5,000?
26,000 in 2020.
I mean, it's not terribly small, but that's definitely small enough that I think everybody in that town probably knows who's working where. And like, it's those people who like go to school around there, they stick there forever. So like, it just becomes a continuation of like high school dynamics and social politics of like, who's who, who's addicted, who's with who's in the force, etc. So I do think there's more to this web that like intertwines all of them and intertwines them to police, and I don't know what the key to that is.
Let me tell you something else, and I didn't include it but I am it is my name. I can be a creep. I am a creeper. His parents lived on the property right next door. So
really?
Yes. And I not that means anything, but I mean, when you talk about it being a town where people are close by, they stick around for a long time. I mean, it seems like it's one of those towns.
And I can't shake that feeling of what Ashley told me when we were talking about Mara Murray, and she talked about like how there is a local consensus up there about everybody in town who they think did it. And I'm like, why don't people speak the hell up? I'm like, why is nobody talking? And she's like, because if it gets back to those people that you talked about that, or you're putting that forward, and cops aren't going to jump on it, or larger law enforcement, state isn't going to jump on it, you become the next target. Like everybody in a small town talks. And I think there could be something similar going on here. I can't prove it. You're asking me to test my gut. And this is what my gut is telling me, baby.
I know. Oh my God. My gut, my neck, my song.
I'm also like, it's so strange that really nobody at the party ever came forward as like a witness, I guess, because I kept thinking of it kind of in like the Karen Reed case where like how John O'Keefe was out front, right? He's out front and he's supposedly dead for all these hours. We think it happened like in the middle of the night. All those people leave the party and not one person sees or hears anything going on.
Well, let me also throw this out there because I thought the same thing. I was like, what if there was no party? Or what if the party had ended and then they're having this altercation? And then
like the night had ended around 10 and this doesn't go down to like 11 or something. Entirely possible. I guess would even create more of a circumstance of like maybe she was killed earlier in the night, closer to 11, and then she was left there, because we do think, based on what that private eye said, that she might have been killed closer to like midnight. So I'm going to say like the 11 to midnight window. And then supposedly Garland's got the alibi with the mistress. So then he goes with her. Maybe that alibi could be true. He just also happened to have her phone. He's with her for most of the night to like secure that alibi, and then comes back to Jesse's where he can plant the phone right near the body. So it looks like she sent the text message at 3 a.m. Then she took her life.
The 3 a.m. text message feels like maybe the biggest, like you said. I mean, if we had access to what that message said, it could tell us everything.
And I also couldn't shake, you said something about her hair being tangled up in the shoelace, right? I couldn't shake the feeling of that just because we just covered the staircase. And I thought a lot about how Kathleen had ripped out parts of her own hair, or like hair was found in her hands. you talked about like the hand going up to try to like brace between like the neck or like the point of strangulation and like where the shoelace is tied. I wondered if like that could have been a defensive wound where she was like fiddling with it near her hair, trying to like get it off. And then maybe that's why her hands were then pulled behind her back. And that's where the bruise came from.
Like you're saying if they were the ones pushing her down and she's
That's
trying to.
Yeah, I'm also struggling to believe that this was just one person. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm looking at Jesse with just as suspicious of an eye as I am at Garland.
Same. And also the freaking camera.
I'm swallowing tooth paint left and right now. I'm housing tooth paint.
My head, the pressure I am feeling from this bird, the headphones, and
it's wide. I know. Truly, we look like every time we come on with these headphones, we look like DJs in these costumes.
Honestly, I think that we could definitely DJ a couple of Halloween parties in these fits. But
yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you. I don't think it was one person. I agree with you.
Okay, so then let's walk through. So what if it was murder? What more than likely happened? Because I'm actually tracking closer to what you said. Like maybe the party wasn't even going on through the night. So maybe that eliminates a whole horde of like potential witnesses or people who, I don't know. But you said there were some people who like, I guess, or maybe it was just Jesse who remembered there being an argument, but it happened outside.
The argument supposedly started inside the house during the party and it was making everybody feel awkward. So he said, take it outside. But let me throw this out there. She's found at the end of a driveway. Who's not going to see her with their headlights blaring, leaving the party?
Okay, I have another theory. Like I'm imagining, maybe the argument did happen. People did see that. So the party was actually happening around like 10 or something. And then maybe it made people uncomfortable because it was so violent or it was getting so violent that people were like, I'm going to head out. Like this is a bad vibe or like, I don't like what's going on because people might have been high. So people just start trailing off. They start leaving by 11. That gives us that clear window of 11 to midnight where something is going on. I wish I had more information about like if she was beaten, but like she could have been strangled. And that would have looked like she was hung anyway, if she had bruising around her neck and maybe this coroner, this highly professional and decorated coroner. Jeff Pounder's mother.
Pounders.
My blood pressure. Maybe he couldn't even tell the difference. He was like, is this bruising from like someone being hung? Or is this bruising from like a physical violent strangulation? Just wondering about like whether she was rendered unconscious from that. And like maybe knocked out and like in the midst of Garland trying to tie her up or something. She's like kind of coming to, starts reaching out, grabs for the purse that's over there, tries to like get something, starts fiddling with like the shoelace. I'm seeing all of it in my mind.
I know.
And eventually the hands are like pulled violently behind the back. And could it be that he had her neck tied up and he's the one tugging her to create the weight to actually finish the job?
Yeah, I think so. Because here's the other thing we're not even naming, which is so obvious. Who in their right mind, if they're going to, I shouldn't say that, but most people, I don't think if they're going to take their own life are going to do it in such a public place where everybody's going to be able to see them, doing it as they're doing it. Like there's a chance anybody could be driving by on this road and catch her doing it. But she doesn't strike me as a type because she put so much into like how she kind of came across to people, how she looked. I don't see her putting herself in a vulnerable position like this to do this to herself. And it seems like it was done in a manner to make her look terrible. Like how embarrassing to put her out in such a vulnerable position to me. It's like, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, it's
woman.
Definitely staged to like for her to be discovered if it was someone who murdered her and positioned her. I totally agree. How do you feel about the clothing? Because we didn't really touch on that.
Oh, yeah. People put a lot of emphasis on the clothing when I was doing the research. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I understand if it really was.
I can see an angle there. I can see it.
Yeah. Because I can see if she really is a glamour girl, and she was. And I looked at a bunch of pictures of her, like when and I have some there, like when she did go to parties, she was always like dolled up. I did think it was weird, but I was thinking if she had been there for a couple of days, maybe she didn't have, clothes with her that were all like she hadn't packed a bag for the party or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she could have changed into his clothes.
Maybe it was more casual. Maybe it wasn't that kind of party.
Yeah, maybe it was just hanging out. So I kind of took the clothes with a grain of salt, but I thought it was funny though, her mom saying she never wore sneakers. I've never even seen her wear them. She's always in heels or sandals or wedges, like never
that's
in a
why
sneaker.
I brought it up. I kind of give a little bit of weight to it. Maybe I wouldn't if like she was estranged from her family or from her mother in particular, but she lived with them. She lived with her parents. So they saw her every day. So even in active addiction and using, it sounded like she was still keeping up some form of an appearance, right? So maybe that could be it. But also, yeah, that is interesting that she was there for several days. So she could have just been running out of clean clothes. It was a casual night. Not every night has to be a dress up night.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a red herring and I'm looking too far into it. Creepers, weigh in on that one. I'm curious what you think about it. But it stuck out to me when you said it. And I was like, I'm going to hold that for later because I think there's something to it.
I think you're right. I don't think you're looking into it too much. I mean, listen, I feel like I'm a glamour girl. I don't think I would be wearing that probably at a casual party even. But who knows? But sadly, that's really all that we have to go off of. I mean, this is one of those cases where I'm like, if we don't get more about it, I will be marching down to Horn Lake and I will be boots on the ground because this is like so beyond negligent or careless. It definitely does steer towards cover up territory, in my opinion.
I can't see. I mean, this is such carelessness to purposefully dispose of the clothing, to get rid of the shoelaces or they're lost, the linchpin core piece of evidence that could prove or disprove suicide. And I know this was a family decision, but to have the body cremated when that body should have been kept for a second autopsy, even if she was embalmed and buried, she could still be exhumed and examined again. If somebody dies mysteriously, don't you ever cremate that body.
Yeah.
Don't you ever do that. And the real thing that could really sink all of it, I guess, would be some kind of a confession. If one of them, if it was a 2-person job, if one of them were to break, which I don't know if that will happen, or if by the grace of Christ himself, sorry. Oh no, I just realized I wasn't wearing my crucifix. Oh no.
Oh no.
I have it too. It had the prop. Damn.
I almost just said your name, Valhalla. What is the name?
Valak.
I almost said, oh no, Valhalla.
You said, baby, you Velveeta? What's that name?
Are you Velveeta, baby?
But like that camera footage, if that ever came out, by the grace of God, that could change all of this.
The camera footage thing also, and I swear we'll wrap, but like the camera footage thing really just grinded my gears because I couldn't understand the logic of him if he was involved, if Jesse was involved, bringing that to police and then going back and saying, actually, I can't figure it out. And police not tapping further. That to me feels like there's a correlation of minds working together, being like, don't give us that.
There's also there's a real possibility that some police could be fearful of Garland. I mean, if Garland is a dealer, whether we consider it to be small time because he's working in like multiple small towns, those are still scary people. Those are people who would have vendettas against certain police officers. And sometimes when you got to live in a county that you police to, that fear could be real. That's you might be next or somebody's got to come after you. This is certainly someone they might think has the capacity to kill. So it just makes me sad and it kind of burns my ass to think that if that were true and that was what was going on here, that this poor girl was just in the crossfire and they were going to let it be a lost cause.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so tragic. But my heart goes out to her mom, who is still working tirelessly on trying to get more answers.
Kids, my God.
And her kids, oh my gosh. Oh my God, the saddest part, I think there's a picture, but her son actually had a child in recent years, so it would have been her grandson. But
wow.
Yeah, I just feel so terrible for that family. And I hope we see answers. I'm so glad that Dr. Godwin was on that case. I'm so curious how he got involved in it too.
He's a doctor?
Or I think he's a doctor, maybe not. Let's just call him Maurice for now. I thought I saw Dr. Godwin in the research, but Maurice. But yeah, I mean, if he sticks with it and if anything else comes out about this, I'll definitely do an update. But
yeah, this is a case I would love to see an update on. And you know what? I kind of think it might be similar to the Sandy case where like, I think we kind of let it, or like we went through it thinking that there was nobody from Shawnee, Oklahoma. This might surprise us as well, that there might be a lot of locals who come out of the woodworks on this and they're like, no, there's a consensus in this town about who did that.
Yeah, it wasn't that funny about Shawnee. There, lots of people had opinions.
I had no idea. I was like,
I
where are
didn't
all these
either.
Oklahoma creepers? Where you guys been hiding at? We had no
Hey,
idea.
y'all. Hey, Sooners. Isn't that what they are? Boomer Sooners? Or if you
Boomer
went to
Sooners?
Oklahoma. If you
What is
went
that?
to
Is that like an
Oklahoma
Oklahoma thing?
University, I think you're called a Sooner.
A Sooner?
A Sooner. Yeah.
Baby, you sooner better graduate and
Baby, I sooner
get
better
the hell
get
out of Tulsa.
these wigs off. Oh my God. Well, I want to thank you so much for going into that case with me.
Thank you.
You had so
Thank
much
you.
insightful, like so many insightful observations, just really interesting. And creepers, I want to thank y'all for joining us for another Friday Halloween episode. You got 2 more coming your way. And with that, baby, I'm going to say goodbye.
And good luck, y'all.
Bye, creepers.